I hear a whistle. My partner's on the roof. He says, let's even the odds!
Welcome back, everybody, to ETO. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and especially last week. We had so many views and just participation on our relationships.
Yeah, tons of engagement. Everyone seemed to really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, thank you so much for that. If you didn't see it, make sure you click that Linktree link in our description. Go back and check that out. Also, make sure you leave us a like, subscribe, check us out on all of our platforms, especially follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Paul has been killing it on Twitter and Instagram. A lot of good content out there. So make sure you go check that out. And any questions or concerns, reviews, feedback that you have for us.
We want it all.
We want it all. Let us know. But guys, we are getting near the end of our investing mini series. And this is one that we had
a couple more left.
Yeah, we got a couple more left. But this is one where we had actually some really nice viewer participation.
Oh, yeah.
And they wanted to know about our thoughts and just maybe some general information about a 401k. And what that means and what that is, and maybe different ways that you can plan for your retirement. So, guys, we do have to say this. I hate it every time, but we are not financial advisors.
No.
We are not financial experts. This is not financial advice. Do not listen to us and solely us to plan your financial futures. But this is what we think.
This is what we're talking about, stuff that we're interested in, and you might be interested in it too. You just listen, you go along for the ride with us.
Go along for the ride, but we do strongly encourage you to do your own research and to make sure that you are fully knowledgeable about these things, because tax code and retirement accounts, there's so many different just things and different parts of these categories that we don't have time to dig into all of them. But definitely we are thinking about it. We're talking about it. We're giving you our points of view. And we're glad that you're here. So, Paul, let's get into it. So, like, when we think about retirement accounts, I think maybe the first thing that most people think about are like 401k.
Yep.
But there are some, and we're going to talk about that, but there's some other retirement accounts like IRAs, 403bs, different retirement accounts. And we're not going to dive into each one of them.
Right.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot. And a lot of them that are applicable to only specific jobs, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned 403b. That's for, I mean, if you're working for like a nonprofit or schools, churches,
like
stuff
a tax,
like that.
a tax exempt,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And 403, and guys, we're not going to talk about all that again. If you fall into that category, I strongly encourage you to talk to a professional, not a real estate. Excuse me. We're going to talk about that. A financial advisor, and maybe talk to them about your 403b.
For sure.
But we're going to talk about 401ks and IRAs, and kind of let's start by defining those and putting some context. So a 401k is an employer-based retirement account.
Right.
And just like the everyday guy walking down the street may or may not have a 401k. It depends on what their employer offers.
Right.
And not every employer does. A lot of employers do. And we're going to talk about that. If your employer offers a 401k, if you should partake in it, or maybe you should go a different route. We're going to talk about that. But then also your IRAs, which is just like an individual retirement account, right? So it's like you have a traditional IRA, you have Roth IRAs, and we're going to talk about kind of the differences in those. But, it's 401k, the biggest thing to keep in mind, it's employer-based, but there are some differences between, what a 401k is and an IRA is besides just employer versus individual.
Right. But I think that's a nice place to start, right? It's the average person walking down the street that, or think about someone that's self-employed. If you're self-employed, you cannot have a 401k.
Yeah, an IRA is a really great tool.
You do not have the ability to get a 401k. So I think it's a nice way to start as a differentiator between these two that we're kind of talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, some people don't have a choice. They have to do one or the other, or you might have to do an IRA, but if you're eligible to partake in a 401k, you can also do and partake in an IRA,
right,
which is a really nice strategy as well. But let's talk about the mechanics a little bit here. So again, guys, there's so many things within these different programs. We're not going to dive into all of them, but some of the highlights is a 401k, you can contribute more per year than an IRA. For example, like an IRA, the max you can contribute right now is $6,000 per year, unless you're partaking in their, I think you have to be like 55 years or older, or maybe it's 50 years. I think it's 50 years.
Okay. Yeah.
After you're 50 years old, you can do
catch-up program.
It's like a catch-up program. In an IRA, you can contribute, I believe it's up to $7,000 a year.
Yeah.
But the 401k is similar in that they have a catch-up program as well. The regular contribution that you can make into a 401k annually is $20,500. But if you're doing the catch-up program, you can contribute, again, being over 50 years or older, you can contribute up to $27,000 per year.
It's considerably more
than
an IRA.
And so, like, the thing about that is, right, it's like compounding interest, the more that you're able to put in, the more the total, pot is going to be at the end.
Right.
So IRA definitely has some limitations as opposed to a 401k. I mean, pretty black and white as to what you can contribute per year.
Right.
So, I mean, the catch-up program is really nice, guys, and that's just another thing, too. When we first started this thing, we said, we don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Like, it's never too late to start trying to even the odds in your life. And programs like the catch-up program, it's going to allow you to do that even into your 50s. If you've not started your 401k or IRA or whatever, take advantage of those programs.
Right.
And invest.
You should be doing something.
Yeah,
You should be doing something.
Absolutely. So those are kind of like the big differences in the mechanics of it, but also the thing that a lot of people say is kind of like their differentiation between like what they want to invest in. 401ks, as we mentioned, they're employer based, they're company based. So
Right.
there's limits, there's parameters into like what you can invest in.
So basically, what your company decides where your money can be invested, right? So like
They give you like 2 or 3 dozen,
Right.
whatever choices or
Right.
whatever, mutual funds and things like that. Yeah, but it is limited as opposed to like a brokerage account or definitely, as opposed to an IRA. If you're in an IRA, you can invest in pretty much whatever you want to. I mean, as simple as an individual stock, but also you can still invest in mutual funds and ETFs and things like that as well. And there's more investing kind of spectrum in an IRA where 401k is like, and every company's different, guys. Don't quote me on this because literally every company is a little bit different, and your account managers will have more information on this. So ask them if you want more information on it. But I don't know. They probably give you 2, 3 dozen different kind of like choices
Right.
that you can pick from to invest in, and all of those probably yield something like, I don't know, like I think the average is like 6 to 10% or something returns. And you can either have an account manager kind of just do it for you. You put your money in and forget about it, or you can have more control and kind of put your money where you want it to maybe get a better return potentially. So there's definitely some things around that. But yeah, I mean, those are the main differences. Your contribution limits per year, and then also what you're able to actually invest in within those accounts.
Right.
There's some differences.
Your IRA gives you a little more freedom there to go out and pick and choose what you would like.
A little bit
to
more
invest your money
freedom
into.
for sure, but also limitations on what you can invest, like the contribution amount. So I mean,
as an individual, you're going to need to weigh those different things out. You need to weigh out,
Yeah.
does the freedom mean more to you than being able to invest an extra $20,000 almost or $15,000? Like,
not for sure. I mean, it's something to consider. Now, the other thing is there that you should know is there's like a traditional IRA and then there's a Roth IRA, and kind of the differences between those. I personally have a Roth IRA. It's how I choose to do it, but I'm going to read this, right off this page here because I don't want to misquote it. But a traditional IRA means essentially there's no. I am paraphrasing this. Actually, I'm not reading exactly. I'm paraphrasing this, but there's no taxes on the contributions, but there's taxes when you go to withdraw it.
right.
Now, and then a Roth IRA. I'll get to this first. So the Roth IRA is different. You're taxed as you contribute.
Right.
But then when you go to take it out, you've already paid your taxes on it. So you don't pay taxes on the withdrawal down the road.
Right.
Now, on an IRA and a 401k, there's kind of this line in the sand at 59 and a half years old, where basically you can take your money out beforehand if you want to, before 59 and a half years old, but you're going to incur penalties and still pay taxes on it.
Right.
At that time as well, on these accounts. And it's generally not wise to take out of your retirement account before you're ready to retire.
Right.
I think that's pretty, sound, information there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, at 59 and a half, you're eligible to withdraw these funds if you want to, with no penalty. You just, depending on which one you have, you pay the taxes or whatever. You've paid the taxes as you went. For whatever it's worth, I give the advantage to the Roth IRA as opposed to the traditional, because what the hell are taxes going to be 30 years from now? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
when
right.
we're,
It's kind of
when
a good
we're
point.
ready to retire.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. You
I mean,
don't know. No one knows.
We don't. I mean, you can only speculate, and you can imagine, what the state of our current economy is, and the shortcomings that we are starting to see with things like Social Security, even. What
Social insecurity.
there you go. What's going to happen between now and then, 30 years from now? You have a very good point.
No, I mean, so it's just like, in a vacuum, in a perfect world, traditional and Roth IRA should be no different.
Right.
but we don't live in a vacuum. We live in an ever-changing, fluctuating economy based off a multitude of factors that are beyond any of our predictions.
Right.
So I mean, it's I'd rather pay the taxes now on the contributions and what I know,
Right.
what they are, whether I know what the conditions are, versus rolling the dice on like what are they going to be when I'm ready to withdraw.
Right. Maybe you get lucky and they're better.
And who knows, man? And again, this is not financial advice. Do what you want to do, but again, the way that I view it, it's no worse than a traditional, but it could be better.
Right.
I mean, that's the way I look at it. But again, guys, maybe IRA is not even the way to go. Maybe your employer offers a 401k and you want to invest in that, right? So it's just like, if your employer offers a 401k, so we did have
Real quick. So
Yeah.
so just want to make sure that I'm understanding everything correctly. And correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong. So with an IRA, it sounds like it could, in theory, be more risky if you're investing everything into like one individual stock rather than going into a mutual
Well-
fund or an ETF or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. So it is more risky if you invest, in my opinion, if you invest in a singular stock.
Right. Rather than diversifying.
Rather, yeah, and I mean, so like ETFs, for example, I invest in a lot of ETFs in my IRA, and ETFs, it's like a basket of
Mhm.
different like securities, and it's a basket of a bunch of different, ideas and securities is, I think, definitionally like what it is, but
Right.
it's like, it's kind of like a concept of like if you bet on like 6 instead of betting on red or whatever in roulette.
Right. That's a good analogy.
It's kind of like if I put all my money into a singular stock, put all my money onto 6 instead of putting all of my money on red, or instead of putting all of my money on an ETF.
Right.
You still never know what the market's going to do. And like, let's not act like we can predict the market because
Right.
no one really can. But that's the way I kind of look at it. And to kind of give you like an analogy there, ETFs are a basket of securities, and they're usually based around like an index, like some sort of like category or something like that.
medical or energy or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an index-based basket of securities that, if you believe in that kind of idea, that even if one of the, one of the pieces of that basket
Right.
doesn't do well, you're still probably all right. But if that one singular stock goes down, I mean, and all your money's in that, it's going to be a rough day.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, so like ETFs, mutual funds, individual stocks, there's a bunch of things you can invest in. Again, me personally, in my IRA, I like ETFs, and that's just what I like. But I mean, if you got, whatever, if you want to get into Tesla or Apple or something like that, I mean, do you, man?
Right.
I ain't gonna tell you what to do with that, but
We're
it's
not going
very
to say what
risky.
to do at all because we're not financial advisors.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. But we did get, and I appreciate you bringing that up too, because that's a really good point. If you're going to be in an IRA, or even like probably like more risky, is like a brokerage account.
Yeah.
Be careful, man. Be careful, because like it's semi easy to know when to get in to the stock. It's very difficult to know when to get out.
Right.
It's very difficult. So like, man, you're never going to know. It's best guess, and hopefully you get lucky. And sometimes it can even be an educated guess and it doesn't pan out. So just like, be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful. Do your homework, but still, protect yourself the best you can in this market. The one point that I'm really excited to talk about though,
Yeah.
is we had a viewer, and man, you know who you are. We told you this was coming. So hopefully you see this episode and you leave us a like, drop a comment. But we had a viewer actually text us, which, by the way, if you haven't texted us before, 859-414-3881. Shoot us a text. We absolutely love it. We've got, a handful of text messages at this point, and we're trying our best to get to each and every one of these requests. But this one was great because it just kind of lined up with our plan anyway, which was phenomenal. But this viewer, again, guys, don't shoot the messenger, all right? I'm just telling you what this text said. But they wanted to know our point of view on a 401k. They wanted to know if we think that it's something that's beneficial, or here's the kind of the hot word, or is it a trap?
Ooh.
And I know we kind of alluded to that on our last episode, but brought up a really good point, because I mean, there's so many people that think
Valid
that
points.
there's some valid points to that, and there's a lot of people in this world, in this country, that think that like a 401k, that's what you should do. I'm going to grow up, I'm going to get a good job, and I'm going to get a 401k. And I'm here to tell you that I don't think that that's wrong.
Right. No.
But I'm also here to say that, like, I totally get that maybe it's a trap mindset. Right. So we're going to dive into that.
And if I can read, I'll read what the viewer said.
Yeah.
and then we'll let you give me a rebuttal. What you think about it? So the viewer said that they felt like it keeps people in the workforce longer.
Yeah.
Which maybe agree.
Well, like, yeah, it does. It incentivizes people to stay in the workforce
Because
longer.
once you leave the workforce, you can no longer contribute to your 401k. It's over.
Yeah.
Then it's your contributions.
Your
are at least over,
contributions, yeah.
right? That it continues to propel the company's profits rather than allowing the employees to work on their own profits.
And yeah, I mean, I agree with that, right? So it's like if you have an entrepreneur, like a spirit to you, and that's like, you want to be an entrepreneur and that's what you want to do. A 401k is a very enticing thing to get you to stay in the workforce.
Right.
And to not follow that. And this particular viewer, I know him well, and man, he's killing it. He's an entrepreneur, man. He's running his own businesses.
Yeah.
And, so his point of view with his work ethic and his desires in life, it does seem like a trap.
Right.
I get that.
100%.
Totally get that. And, man, it's a fair point. It's a very fair point. And, kind of the other thing that I thought of when he said the word trap, I've always kind of believed in 401ks, and we're going to get into why 401ks are like, I think they're a decent, like pretty good program and a good thing to be part of. But the first thing that he said when he said it's a trap, the first thing that my mind went to was like, it is a trap because you can't get your money out until you're 59 and a half unless you want to pay some penalties.
Right.
And I'm like, my general concept is like, I don't like to give my money to something that I can't get it back out of. Relatively fast and easy. And I mean, there's paperwork and process to everything. But I put my money in a 401k. And if I don't want to take a penalty, it's like, okay, Paul, I'm going to give you my money. Paul, I like my money back now. Okay, that'll be 10%.
Yep. I'm going to keep this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm either going to keep it or I'm going to keep 10% to hand it back to you. That's a very simplified version, but that's what it is.
Right. It translates.
Now you're making compounded interest on those, contributions and stuff. So
Right.
like that 10%, you're probably still coming out ahead, over enough time. But I get it, man. I don't like to not be able to get my money if I need it.
Right.
I don't want to be handcuffed into staying into something because of the penalties that may come. And so like, I totally get it. I really, really do. And it's like one of those things like 59 and a half, if you're, let's say you're 29 and a half and you're putting your money in and then, oh shit, something hits the fan and you're 33 and you need your money and you've got thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars locked up in your 401k.
You can't touch.
But you got to take a huge penalty to take it. I mean, it's like, that's tough, man. You can get it, but they're going to take their cut.
Mm.
And it's like, that's tough. And also at the same time, it's like, I thought about what's the alternative? What else could I put that same amount of money into?
Right.
Where I could get my money out sooner with no penalty. Additionally, what else can I do that with and maybe get some cash flow out of it and make some money on the monthly instead of waiting until the compound kicks in?
Because that's a drawback on both of these. They're not cash flowing. You're not getting money in each month from these investments. This is tuck it away, save it for however many years, 59 and a half or whatever. And then that's when you can really get it. That's how these are meant to be done, right? You're not meant to be able to have access to this, but like you said, emergency comes up. I may need access to it. And I feel like sometimes I probably should be able to get to my money without having to pay a fee.
Like, check this out, right? So here's the thing. Let's say, me and you, right? We're both young married men, with our child-bearing years, and child-raising years.
For the most expensive part of our life.
The most expensive part of our life is for the next, from like 30 to 60. That's going to be the most expensive part of our life where we need our liquid.
Right.
You know what I mean? And no, I'm not saying like, never invest anything. I don't care if it's real estate, 401k, stocks. I don't care what it is. Never invest anything that you can't live without.
Right.
As like a general rule of thumb. Like if you're investing more than you have to the point where you can't pay your bills because you invested it all, that's a problem. But at the same time, the most expensive part of our lives, we're going to be tucking money away, useful money away into an account that we can't touch without penalty.
Right.
And that's a con.
For some folks, that's probably a safety net if they're not good at
if you don't have the
managing
discipline.
their money. Right.
Yeah. If you don't have the discipline, sure.
That's probably the logic behind it. Is that it's protecting me from myself. But you need to find a way to strengthen that discipline muscle a little bit and recognize I need to put this away, but I can also have access to it if I absolutely need to. And it kind of goes back into things that we've talked about in previous podcasts, right? Like you have to structure your life appropriately. You have to structure your life appropriately so that you can both live the life that you want to live and also invest and also have these things. Because, like you said, you're putting all your money into investments, but you can't live.
Yeah.
Well, there's vice versa too. We talked about. You're spending all of your money living at your means that you can't invest.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
You need to have that plan that we've talked about previously.
So, it's like, okay, so like your money, like, is it a trap? Again, now guys, I'm not saying it's a trap. Again, we're about ready to talk about some of the pros of a 401k, but at the same time, I get it. 100% get the idea that it's a trap. Your money's tucked away in an account that you can't touch without penalty. There's no cash flow on a monthly basis that you can actually use and put to work. There's no cash flow during like the most expensive time in your life. There's no cash flow. And also we're going to talk about this here in a minute, but like when you go to take like your withdrawals or your distributions or like take it all out or whatever, when you take the money out of your 401k, it's taxed as regular income,
right?
As opposed to what we spoke about on our real estate podcast. You refinance that house, it's a non-taxable event,
right?
There's a difference there. There's absolutely a difference there, and real estate cash flows as well.
And I'll tell you the piece of it for me that really drove the whole trap. For those listening, not watching on YouTube, I'm putting air quotes around trap.
Yeah,
is the fact that once I'm no longer employed, I can no longer contribute to that 401k. Now I could take it and roll it over into an IRA or something like that, but it can no longer sit where it was, and I can keep contributing to it. So it really does incentivize staying employed by that same employer.
1,000,000%. You no longer work here. You can no longer put your money in here.
Right.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about ways to kind of beat that system a little bit. So if you want to partake in a 401k, you can still make it work for you. 100%. But
I think that's a good way to segue into these pros, because I think the biggest pro in my mind is company matching. I think that is by far the big, that it's free money.
It's free money. If you're too good for free money, come talk to me. You know what I mean?
I'll take your free money.
Yeah, for real. I'll take it. But if you have a company match, you nailed it. Yeah. So like a lot of companies, they match your 401k contributions, and every company is a little bit different. But like, let's just say, for example, you put in 5% and your company will match your 5%. Man, you just got a 5% pay raise. But also that 5%, pay raise, quote unquote pay raise, it's going into an account that will compound interest and returns over time. It's free money that's going to compound for you. It's free money that's going to go to work for you. It'd be tough to pass that up. But also at the same time, like I get it. Like that's a way they incentivize you to stay, is that company match. And I get that, but it's not a bad thing. No. Just because they're incentivizing you to stay because they'll profit more. Hey man, I can profit more too. And that's okay. We're both going to win.
Scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Exactly. So it's like, employer matching is like, in my opinion, it's the biggest incentive to a 401k. There's probably a better reason to partake in a 401k than that. But if like a company's going to give me free money for me to invest my money, where like, okay, so if I don't partake in it, and if I just keep my 5%, put it in my checking account, they ain't going to give me nothing. Right. But if I put it here instead of here, they'll match it. My 5 just became 10. It's going to compound.
And that 401k is probably making more than it would be sitting in your bank.
Oh, it's going to make a lot more. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the average, I think the average returns, I think I said, is like 6 to 10% or something like that. Your checking account's nothing.
A whole lot more than
the money. Yeah. Your money in the bank is dead. Invest in something. I mean, I've said that before, but like invest in something. But, there's also several things about a 401k. I know you said earlier, like incentivizing you to stay in the workforce, like you can't contribute anymore once you retire.
Right.
That's true. But there are ways that you can kind of still make your 401k work for you after you retire. And what I know you said one about rolling it over to an IRA.
Yeah. So you can roll it over into an IRA, and you could still contribute to an IRA.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. There may be penalties in doing so. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that you can.
Again, talk to your account managers on this, people, because anyone with a 401k, your company has, whatever, Charles Schwab or Fidelity or whatever, something.
Invesco,
yeah. They've got someone, account managers who will be able to walk you through these steps. So talk to them. They're going to be able to walk you through all of
Actual financial advice.
actual financial advisors. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you can take your money in your 401k and you can roll it over to an IRA. Now you won't be able to contribute whatever 20,500 a year, but
Right.
you'll still be able to contribute something.
Mhm.
But the other thing that I really like about a 401k, when I first thought or like started learning about a 401k, I was just like, okay, so you invest all this money and it compounds and it builds and it grows and it becomes this amount, and then like you retire and you take that money out.
Like a
And-
nest egg.
And that's what, yeah, it's a nest egg, and that's what you got. And like, I mean, some people
I
do
think people
that.
do that. Yeah, I think that's pretty common. I think a lot of people do that.
And you can also certainly invest that nest egg into other things.
Mhm.
I mean, you could take that nest egg out and put it into real estate, or you can put it into your small business that you want to do in retirement or whatever. There's a lot of things you can do with that nest
Right.
egg. But there's also, I mean, the idea of like taking distributions
Mhm.
off of your 401k. And, quote unquote, I've heard a lot like living off the interest.
Mhm.
So like, let's say,
I've heard that before too, but it's always like, what interest? Like, who's what does that mean?
Yeah, so like you can take like a regular distribution in the form of like an annuity. And so like let's say you have, for example, and we're going to get into a specific example here in a minute, but like let's say you have like $1 million in your 401k when you retire and you're making 10% a year.
Right.
And you can leave your money in your 401k. You can leave it in there and it will remain invested in whatever your previous allocations were.
Right.
And you can't contribute more, but it will stay where it's at. And it's not going to grow by what you're putting in because you're no longer putting
Right,
in
you're no
anything
longer
in.
putting money in. Right.
But let's just say you got $1 million in there and you're earning 10% a year. And let's say you take a distribution of 10% a year, you're living off the interest returns.
Right.
10% of $1 million is 100,000.
And that $1 million stays right there.
Nest egg didn't go anywhere. You're living off the interest, taking that annuity or distribution off of your 401k. And I mean, again, guys, talk to your account managers on this because like different companies have different forms of distributions and different rules and different ages to what you can start taking them out, different minimums and maximums. Talk to them. But a distribution is a really good way to make your 401k nest egg stretch a lot further
Mm-hmm.
than what it actually says it's going to be.
Right.
Now, we did want to talk to you guys about we wanted to kind of give you some context, like a specific scenario. So,
Yeah,
Paul,
I like this.
where do we go? It's like calculator.net. it was like calculator.net, but trust
But
calculator.
it's a legit calculator.
It does math. So yeah, trustcalculator.net. But we plugged a scenario in because again, guys, this is kind of complex stuff, and we're giving you the abridged version here
Yeah.
of kind of what it is. But the scenario, I'm going to read this. We typed this all in already, so I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel here. I'm going to read it to you. So let's say you're 30 years old. You're a 30-year-old American. And let's say you're making $50,000 per year, which is close to like the average salary in
Yeah,
America. That's
around there.
I think that's close. Let's say you're 30 years old. You have $0 in your 401k, but you're making $50,000 a year. Let's also say that you start working 30 years old, zero in your 401k, and you start investing 5% of your salary of every check goes into your 401k, and your employer is going to match it 100% up to that 5%.
Free money.
Free money, free money. Hashtag free money. So you're investing 5, your company's matching 5. Let's say that 30 years go by, right? Just to put a mark on it. So you're going to retire when you're 60, which puts you over that 59 and a half mark. So
Right.
we avoid all the penalties and stuff for taking it out early and blah, blah, blah. And also, guys, we need to put some parameters on this because we know a lot is going to change in the world in 30 years. So let's just assume that you're going to get a 2% salary increase every year for the
About
next
that
30 years.
inflation.
But we're probably going to see a 3% inflation rate over the next 30 years. I think those are fair numbers.
I think that's fair.
Those are fair
Those are
numbers.
absolutely
There's no one's going to be able to predict the next 30 years, but they're fair. They're not outrageous. And let's say, again, we said, 6 to 10. Some of you guys who manage your own 401ks, you might get 15, 20. Good for you, man. Keep doing it. But the average is like 6 to 10. Put your money in, 6 to 10. That's a saying I just made up. Put your money in, 6 to 10. You know what I mean?
Rhymes.
It rhymes, so it must be true. But no, for real, let's say you get 10% return, right? At 60 years old, your contributions over 30 years will be worth $1,026,000 in your 401k. And your contribution to have earned that $1 million is going to be roughly $101,000.
Pretty good return.
It's a hell of a return. You're 10xing your money. You're going to put in $101,000 over the 30-year term, and it's going to be worth $1 million. Give or take some numbers there, but it's going to be a 10x. Now, also, it's not actually a 10x on the investment. It's 10x on your money.
Right.
Don't forget your employer also contributed $101,000.
Mhm.
So it's more of like a 5x on the total investment, but
Right.
it's a 10x on your money. As a 10x out of your check.
Yeah, because you took advantage of that free money.
Free money. So I recommend anyone who has the ability to do a 401k, it's not a bad plan.
Probably should.
But also at the same time, we do want to put into perspective here.
Right.
There are other investments that you can get into. And we spoke about IRAs, but let's talk about something else here. That $101,000 could be the down payment on like 3 duplexes. And I know the argument Paul's going to be like, "Oh, it's $101,000 over 30 years, not
Right.
$101 at
I don't
once."
have $101,000.
I ain't got $101,000. I get you, man. Well, like start with 1. Don't
Right.
start with 3.
20,000 is a lot more feasible.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's there's way you have to build on this. So, but I just want to tell you, just dollar for dollar, and plus or minus the timeline 5 or 10 years or whatever. But dollar for dollar, I want to give you some context here. $101,000 worth of down payments on like let's say 3 duplexes. We're valuing these duplexes at $130,000 a piece, which in our area you can buy duplexes for about $130K. Now, you can. I've seen them. Your mortgage,
Probably different in your area, but
yeah,
this is
absolutely.
just- these numbers fit
Then-
ours.
Yeah, absolutely. That like your debt on that is probably going to be like $775, $780 a month, and you like we're saying you have 3 of them, so
Right.
times all this by 3. But
That's what your mortgage would be.
that's the debt on the property. Yeah, that's the debt on the property. But you also have duplexes, so you have 2 units,
Right.
and you're going to rent each of these units out for probably $775, $780. So again, this math is pretty easy, but it's also pretty accurate. You know, if your debt is 775 times 3, but your cash flow is 775 times 6, your cash flow is now 775 times 3. That's what you're cash flowing, right? 775 times 3, 12 months a year over the same 30-year term. Paul, what does that equal?
$837,000.
He did that in his head, people. On the spot, we did not pre-plan that. But seriously,
Calculator.net.
yeah, calculator.net. Check. It's a great thing to kind of give you some perspective. But it's $837,000, and you're saying,
And
like,
that's the cash flow.
that's cash flow.
Too. So that's not the equity that you have in the
Ain't
house.
done.
That's not the actual value of the homes that you purchased. That's just the cash that went into your bank account. Now it's
It helps you live for the last 30
right,
years.
right. You're going to have different expenses that come out of that, right? You're probably not going
Yeah,
to
you're gonna have to
not
replace some
upgrade the
water
house
heaters,
in
some
30
roofs and
years,
shit.
right?
Yeah.
You're going to have some expenses that
Yeah.
come through, but that's just the cash flow.
I
coming in.
promise you, your water heaters and roofs are not going to cost you $837,000.
No.
So like you're still coming out pretty good there. But again, you're right. That's just cash flow. Here's the beautiful part. It's like the hidden gem that you
Mhm.
forget about, and then it just happens, right? So year over year, historically, in this area, again, it might be different in yours, but in this area, we see about a 3% appreciation rate of real estate.
Mhm.
Year over year, your house is going to appreciate 3% historically. Again, guys, these last couple of years have just been nuts. You know, they've been, I don't know, like 20% last year or something.
Wild.
Something crazy. I mean, but again, this is historical. I mean, 3% is a fair number
Mhm.
of what your home will appreciate year to year. So we also plugged in. We had this portfolio, 130 per duplex, 3 duplexes, $390,000 portfolio,
3 properties.
3 properties. So 390,000 of real estate with 3% increase over 30 years. Paul, what's that now worth? Mental math
$946,633.
down to the dollar.
17 cents.
Damn it, you're good. No, but seriously, guys. I mean, so we talked about 837 cash flow plus a 946,000 equity stake.
Mhm.
Okay, like that's what your properties are now worth, not 390 anymore. Here's like the caveat on top of it all. Now your properties are paid off because it's been 30 years.
So you went from cash flowing 775, which is probably more than that, to doubling it.
You went from 775 times 3 to 775 times 6. But also on top of that, you think rents didn't raise during
Right.
those 30 years?
Right.
My rent ain't 775 no more. My rent's gone up. Because guys, I do have to address this. I had a very good viewer. He mentioned, and he's right. We had on a real estate podcast, we had a stat in there that it came from a source that said like rentals have gone up like 9% annually,
Mhm.
something like that. That was for like a specific amount of time, and it's not historically over time true.
Right.
So we do apologize about that, but we're going to own up to our mistakes. You look at 10 different sources and you might see 10 different things. So it's tough sometimes, but the baseline is still true. The principle is still true.
It's still going up.
Historically, we redid the math and dug a little deeper. They still go up about 4% annually on rents, on rental prices. So You take 4% increase of rents over 30 years, and now your mortgage is paid off, man. Your cash flow just skyrocketed. I mean, and I don't even know. Do we have mental math? Do we have the math on that? I don't know. I don't know if we've got the math on that, but I mean, guys, we were already going to have 837 in cash flow. We were going to have damn near 950K in equity paid off. And then during that time, all this time, our cash flow actually would have went up. Like, we did a constant,
right. We
rate.
didn't change the rent. We kept it at 775, but it would have gone up.
You'd have more than 837 because the rental would have been raising the entire time as you went. But also at the same time, like now you're paid off. So now it's going to, whatever it was, it's going to double.
Right.
In this specific scenario.
And you still have yet to touch the equity in the properties.
So guys, okay, we've talked about a lot. This is intense, right? There's a lot of stuff here. So like a 401k, it's a beautiful program. An IRA, it's a beautiful program. It is like a cosmic ton better than leaving your money in a savings account.
Absolutely.
And here's because your money in your savings account makes nothing. An IRA, a 401k, they're going to make you whatever, 6, 10, 15, whatever return.
A better percentage than it was sitting in the bank.
And if you keep contributing to it year after year, it's going to start compounding. And before you know it, it's going to hit this exponential curve where it just skyrockets.
Yep.
And it's worth a lot of money. Do not leave your money sitting in a savings account. I mean, whatever, keep your money to live and keep a little emergency fund and keep some whatever, blah, 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 whatever you want to do. But any extra money that you don't need to live your daily life, putting it in a 401k and an IRA, I do not think it's a trap. I do not think it's a trap. I think for the average person, it's a good investment. Like I just said, I ain't going to say it again. I'm going to have to bleep that one out, but it's a lot better than leaving your money in the bank.
It is. It's better than leaving your money in the bank. But, we talk about diversifying. We talked about diversifying earlier just simply in like the ETF, right? Instead of just a single stock with an IRA.
Mm-hmm.
What if you diversified what you were investing in, period? What if you've got a company that's willing to match you on a 401k? Well, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Take that free money. Don't turn that free money away. If they'll match you 5%, all right, take, or 100% of your 5%, take that.
Yeah.
But structure your life, get your plan right to where you can do some of these other things too. And you can work toward having this, situation or the scenario that we gave you with real estate.
Yeah. Do both. Man.
And at, whatever, 59 and a half, 60 years old, have the little nest egg that you had built up. Right. And doesn't necessarily need to be a nest egg. You can take out your distributions, but you could also just say, you know what, screw it. I want to take out this $1 million and I'm going to blow it because I know I have this cash flow coming in or whatever. It's up to you.
Again, we're not financial advisors.
Right.
I wouldn't say go blow it, but
but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can have both if you structure your life to have both.
And I think I have 2 points on this too. So one, I totally agree. You should and could have both, but we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But the other thing is too, it's just like real estate, for example, you say have both. It's generational.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. It continues to appreciate. It continues to cash flow. It continues to build. It continues to grow. Whereas like a 401k, you might be able to live comfortably off the interest. But also, let's not forget here, people, this is 30 years in the future.
Right.
So
that's a good point.
This calculator.net, again, it's a really beautiful thing. It takes historical data and it kind of forecasts it into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you, $1 million in your 401k is going to have the buying power of like $430,000 in today's world. So like if you're living off the interest and let's say you take a distribution of like $100,000 a year or something, an annuity or whatever.
It sounds like a lot right now.
It's like $43,000,
right.
Which I mean, there's nothing wrong with $43,000, but let's not get it twisted here for a minute. 30 years worth of inflation and depreciation and different things. Your 100,000 today is a lot different than 100,000 30 years from now.
Right.
It's so like, let's not get twisted. It's a really good reason to get invested into more things than just a 401k.
Absolutely.
Now it's like, we say it's like, it's kind of like, why don't you just invest in more? It's like, dude, I'm not made of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, Paul, like, how can we get invested in more?
I mean, you need to find a way to make more money.
Bingo. Make more money. And you're probably saying like, well, damn, that's not easy.
That's so easy. All right.
Easier.
You can't just go in your boss, say, excuse me, I would like to make more money today, please.
Yeah. And so there's a couple of principles that I have in mind here. And this is actually a really nice segue into next week's podcast, guys, we're going to be finishing up the mini series on investing. We're
Rounding out third, heading to home.
That's right. Does that sound Great American?
What?
That does say, yeah. But anyway, no, seriously. Next week we're going to be finishing this up, and we're going to be talking about investing in yourself. And what Paul just said, make more money. And on the surface, it's like, dude, I'm trying.
Right.
We're going to teach you and talk about with you how you can invest in yourself, acquire skills, knowledge, expertise, things that you can put into yourself that will make you more valuable, that can increase the amount of money that you make. But not just money, but also just help you achieve success in a lot of different areas.
If you listen to any of our investing podcasts, make sure you listen to the one on investing in yourself.
Coming up next week.
It's the foundation for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's coming up next week, guys, and we're gonna teach you that. We're gonna walk through it with you. We're gonna tell you how we've done it. But as you guys know, we like to go out on a final thought each and every week. So again, I've learned a lot about 401ks that I didn't know a week ago. So I mean, there's still so much more. And IRAs, the same note, 403Bs, everything, everything we talked about. But in general, me personally, my investing strategy, I'm not trying to build a nest egg. I want to build an indestructible portfolio of assets that make money forever. I don't want to have $1 million or $5 million or $10 million and just have it sit there. I want assets that produce cash flow. I want assets that produce appreciating equity. Because if there's one thing that I do strongly believe in, it's that appreciation to a large degree offsets the inflation in society. Appreciation offsets inflation.
It should, if you are investing in the right things that are going to appreciate the right way, right? And that's where it's so important. We're both, I mean, it's obvious we're both pretty bullish on real estate investing, right? And I know for me personally, people are always going to need a place to live. They're always going to need a place to live. People have needed places to live for the entire existence of humanity, right? Yeah. There was probably a time when it was really smart to invest in wagons, right? But then here comes the car. You no longer need wagons. They're gone, right? So right now, you see the same thing as it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, however long. People need a place to live. That's not going anywhere. We're never going to not need places to live unless the apocalypse happens, right? So you talk about an indestructible asset, and I'm not saying that a house is indestructible.
Yeah, tornado comes and
right, it's gone.
Yeah, whatever.
But the property is still there. It's still yours. It still has value, and it's never going to not have value because
when I say indestructible, I mean the concept, the philosophy of what I'm talking about. Like you said, people will always need a place to live. That's an indestructible concept. Like people don't always have to have, whatever, Starbucks. Mm-hmm. So like if I want to invest in like Starbucks or whatever, like people could go without Starbucks if they really had to, if it came down to it. Right. People got to have a place to live. And you tell my wife that, she might fight me. She might say she need her Starbucks now. But again, guys, I believe in assets that build appreciation and cash flow forever. That's what I personally believe in. But if you have the ability to invest in a 401k, especially with a company match, free money,
take it.
I would say take it. I think you'd be dumb not to. And if you say, well, Matt, I can't afford to do both, well, then we're going to teach you how to invest in yourself. That way you can make more money and achieve more success. That way you can do both. That's coming up next week. But guys, I really appreciate you. This is a fun one for us. It's something that like relationships, we've lived relationships like all of us have. But like 401ks, IRAs, like we've not lived it yet.
Have you retired yet?
No, I've not retired yet. So I've not seen how this pans out.
Right.
So it's really fun for me to see how it goes.
And it's important that we're figuring that out now. It's
Absolutely.
important that we're researching it, we're learning about it now. Yeah. And that's I enjoyed this week as well because I learned a lot of things that I didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's fun. And guys, don't hate on me now. Don't hate on me and Paul in the comments and say, you guys didn't talk about this on your 401k or you got blah, blah. Listen, we are not financial experts. We're talking to you about some general concepts about retirement accounts, retirement philosophies and investments. Again, to our viewer who texted us and said, man, 401k is a trap. I hear you, buddy.
Yeah.
Valid.
Definitely see what you're saying.
Valid. But for his individual, like I said, we know him personally. Mm-hmm. He's going to be fine without one.
Right.
He's going to be fine without one. For the everyday average person, 401k is probably a good idea. Mm-hmm. Probably a good idea. It's going to be a hell of a lot better than your money in your bank account.
Right.
So, again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you click that Linktree link in the description so you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere, man. And for the ones of you watching on YouTube, man, I love it. The ones on YouTube, man, we're getting a lot more views. Like each week, we're getting a little bit more views, and I do love seeing that go up. We've had some comments come in, some positive feedback, some constructive criticism.
Yeah.
It's been really great. So if you haven't seen us on YouTube, make sure you go check out our YouTube page and subscribe, leave us a like and a comment.
And that reminds me, so following up after our Investing in Yourself podcast, we're going to have a special Q&A.
This is gonna be fun.
So we had a listener leave us a comment, and I believe it was a comment or a text or somebody reached out to us in some way, and they wanted to know more about us.
I was commenting on YouTube. Yeah.
Was it comment on YouTube?
Comment on YouTube, yeah.
So we want to know what you want to know. So go ahead and get those questions in, get them started coming out. You can, slide in the DMs, shoot us a text, whatever. Let us know what you would like to know. And
listen, me and Paul are 100% open books. We will answer any question you want, unless we don't want to, in which case we're not. We won't answer it sometimes. But no, seriously, guys. So you want to know anything about me? You want to know anything about Paul? You want to know about ETO? You want to know about the show? You don't want to know about where we're recording and HQ down here in ETO. You want to know anything at all? I know we've talked about our wives and our friends. We've talked about our relationships. We've talked about our personal investments. Ask us anything. We're going to have a Q&A. We're going to be posting on Twitter. We're going to be posting on Instagram. It's going to be everywhere. Make sure you follow us first off so you don't miss that opportunity. And then seriously, ask us whatever you want to transition out of our miniseries after next week, after the Investing in Yourself. We're giving you guys 2 weeks to make sure you get on top of this. But after that, we're going to be doing a full episode on Q&A.
Whatever you want to know.
Ask Paul and Matt. And we're going to answer it again. Unless we don't feel like it, then we won't. But seriously, guys, thank you so much. Until next time, it's been a pleasure.
We're out.